Nobody's born incredible. People who do incredible things simply took the right steps. This is our journey. This is the hunt for incredible. In this episode, we continue our conversation with Jason Albers. For a quick recap, Jason is the drummer of a band called Flatland Cavalry that's absolutely blowing up right now. They have over 500 million streams across platforms, 2.6 million monthly listeners on Spotify alone, and sold out shows across the country. Now, he's the drummer of the band despite being born with a rare condition known as monodactyly. In the last episode, we talk about how he turned his unique challenges into advantages, how he and other members started a successful band, and more. In this episode, we talk about the philosophy and mental models on how to build teams, how to leverage your craft to make connections with people, how to grow a band and business, and more. All right, without further ado, here's my continued conversation with Jason Albers. Maybe we'll adjust what this second half of the episode is, because I love this theme of just like the philosophy and the models around building what you did build to give people the tools to be able to build those things again.
Sure.
You're spot on around the process of building a team. It involves supporting them more so than them supporting you, right? So like people often think of it as this pyramid with the leader on the top, but really it's a flipped upside down pyramid where it's the people on the top are servant leaders to make sure everybody else has everything that they need. How can I empower you to deliver? How can I help you move faster? I was just talking to the girl who's scheduling these podcasts and making sure that we're on a good cadence so we can release weekly. And she was asking me about the systems that I had previously had in place to get the schedule going. And I said, I'll share with you the system that I had in place because, well, systems are my love language, but also I want you to create the system and I want you to own the system. So whatever works for you, you let me know what you need from me. And then you just own this thing and run with it and let me get out of your way. Make sure that I am out of your way. But I think a lot of times people, they run into the challenge of feeling like the quality won't be to the standard that they would have it. But the ROI on your time, even let's say if you hire somebody and they do 80% of the quality that you think you could do, that is still a way better return on your time and is much more scalable and is also probably a complete fallacy because there are people out there who they want to do the thing that you would be giving them more than you want to do it. And they would do a significantly better job than you would do it anyway. So you're only going faster by bringing on the right people and trusting them to do it.
Absolutely. When we started this, Cleto, he had a pretty wise saying, said, you can go fast by yourself or you can go far with others. And that's why he thought that, this whole thing should be a band. Flatland Cavalry should be a band. It's an outfit of like-minded people that have the same goal of wanting to go out there and make incredible moments, shows with live performances, shows, make incredible music, and get out there to the masses. But yeah, I love that thing that he said was you can go fast with yourself or you can go far with others. And to me, that's the essentials of a team.
So what would you recommend in terms of diving into music and really going for it? How would you recommend somebody goes about that process? If somebody's listening right now and they say, I want to be a professional musician or a professional, whatever it is, right? Something in the artistic field that seems a little uncertain. Maybe it's the culinary arts, maybe it's anything at all. What would you recommend they do or how they think about it?
As far as getting yourself into music, go ahead and just don't do it. And just do with your plan B. I'm just kidding. No, because music on its own, right, is so cathartic. It's so great. It's like you don't even have to do it for a living to love it so much. And then the fact that you can, it's huge. So anchoring to that feeling, I think I remind myself today in my position. I know the other guys do. And day one, hold on to that feeling of what music gives you and use that as your anchor point of if that's good or if it's not, hold on to that feeling, because there's going to be that time in the creative process where you're like, is this good? No, it's not good. Oh man, oh, what am I doing? I'm wasting my life. And it's you're going down, 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 and then you realize you just hadn't had anything to eat in 12 hours, or you hadn't slept in 18. It's just like, wait a second. Take care of yourself and really anchor on. But if you're asking for logical steps, uh, find your crowd. Have your music in itself is interesting. If we're looking from a business aspect, it is a service and a product. So cut your songs, make sure they're good, make sure they have something to say, and go and serve out others with them, and find people that connect with it. Stick around them for a little while, because you cut from the same cloth.
That is so good. Music is a service and a product. I absolutely love that.
As a musician, a creative, a songwriter, anything that you want to be, there is that element of luck. And if I'm going to explain luck, it's just like you've heard it. It's the combination of preparation and opportunity meeting, right? So that's where we talked about Dylan. He is the guy, a manager is the guy that finds opportunity strictly. And he's the guy. That is his job, is to keep everything in bounds, keep the ship afloat, and go out there and find that opportunity. And while the other side of the brain, the musicians, the artist, is preparing, making new songs, making new moments, all that stuff. So another element of teamwork right there. Preparation and opportunity. And I imagine you can put that to any facet of any business, right? There's the guy that has the service or the product, and then there's the other guy. We'll call him the slick salesman. I don't care, whatever you want to call him. He's the guy getting the opportunity. When that combines, man, that's where the luck and it happens.
Yeah. I have another good friend who always says, put yourself in good situations and good things will happen. It's like there are areas of localized luck that, of course, nothing's guaranteed. But if you go to those areas with localized luck, you have a higher probability of getting lucky, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say this too, is if you want to go to the Olympics, hang out with Olympians, do what the Olympians do. If you want to get into music, hang out with musicians, do what the successful musicians do. Don't listen to that person that's never tried to be a musician before, has never done it before. Your Uncle Joe who's like, oh, you really should pick a more stable path. Like, well, he only picked a stable path and he didn't do anything like what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to listen to somebody who's done what I'm trying to do, right? Nothing against anybody's Uncle Joe's, but it's important, especially as a younger person who's trying to navigate life, being highly selective of who you actually do take advice from and what circles you hang around, and trying to find those areas of localized luck so that you have a better chance of actually catching lightning in a bottle.
Absolutely. And we talked about your superpower is constructive criticism, which taking criticism is great, but it is only constructive when you're considering your sources, like you're saying, when you have that mentor, that, for me, that musician, that Steve Jordan, John Mayer's drummer, watching his videos, following him on Instagram, taking his advice, finding mentors. I just had to say that so we're not contradicting ourselves, but there is, taking your convictions, knowing what you want to do, and making sure that who you're taking your criticisms from. Not my parents were very scared of me being a musician because they don't know a professional musician, right? Either way, just had to say that.
No, I love that, and I'm glad you pointed that out. That's always a fantastic litmus test in terms of whether or not it's worth listening to someone's advice, is have they done the thing that I'm trying to do, or did they step on the landmine that I'm trying to avoid? But even that second one, it's a little iffy sometimes, right? Because the grass is always greener. So somebody might have stepped on a landmine and said, oh, you should avoid this landmine by doing this other thing. But if they didn't do that other thing, there might be a landmine there also. So you almost have to find somebody who's done the thing that you're trying to do. You work your tail off to earn their respect and be able to actually get their wisdom so that you can get closer to them. And then the closer the mentorship, the higher the quality of feedback and everything else. But yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. That's why I'm super stoked for getting to the opportunity to work with Rich Summers. He's in real estate and has a killer podcast, the Rich Summers Report, and getting closer to him and actually getting his feedback on things, knowing that he has done the things that I'm trying to do and his feedback is helping me shape it. That's been another major influencer in terms of feeling this wind behind my back, is not having to second guess all of my decisions to say, okay, is this actually the right move or not? I can confidently know this is the right move and just sprint full steam ahead. And it's been an incredible feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And mentorship, like you're saying, is another one of those elements, as you were asking. If someone is trying to get into music, find that mentor and whatever you want to do, and be honest and open to that kind of constructive criticism.
No, that's so solid. Man, these are such good nuggets of wisdom. You mentioned some really exciting things like getting to go on tour with Luke and meeting Willie Nelson. Are there any interesting stories that you think are worth throwing out?
I'll give you one, and we'll see if this makes it to post.
It was shortly after that they realized the story would not, in fact, make it to post.
There's just been like crazy moments like that where it's just like you never know who you're gonna meet. We got to meet Patrick Mahomes. That was awesome. Sick. Over in Kansas City, easygoing guy. Get to talk about Lubbock. Then we got to meet Willie a couple days back, which was awesome. He runs his. By the way, he's 90 years old. If I can make it to like half of that age, even with the way I'm living, sometimes I'll be happy. But he is, dude. He's walking and talking well, and but still, an American icon. We got to meet him, and it was real short. Just he got off the bus, shook our hands. We took the picture, all that good stuff. But yeah, the rest of his band, the rest of his guys are just top notch dudes, and even their tour manager said that some of the crew was like, "Man, you guys are the highlight of our weekend," all that stuff. Which we just got a nod of approval from one of our heroes. Which was really cool. We have 2 more shows with him. But I've heard so many Willie stories that it wasn't like one of the cool ones, but still it was a moment. I'm very thankful he even gave us his time. It's just as Dylan was saying, our manager, hey, he handpicked you guys out to come out, and which is blowing our minds because once again, we're just a bunch of dudes that started in the garage, some dusty West Texas town. Yeah, and here we are now. So we're living in the present, not taking anything for granted. But I don't know. We'll figure it out as we're going on, like we have been.
That's amazing when you have moments like that and you realize that the reality is bigger than you could have even imagined. Like Willie Nelson handpicking you to play with him is. I mean, that's got to be something that's like on a dream list that maybe you don't even think of it ever knocking it out. And then all of a sudden you're there thinking, holy crap, we were handpicked by Willie Nelson and I'm talking to him right now.
Yeah, man, just any hero in general in life doing that, just that nod of approval, like we like what you guys are doing. It's just like you guys are carrying the torch almost. He didn't say that verbatim, but that's kind of what I took it as. Just like, all right, it was awesome, totally huge. It was fulfilling, and you just kind of take that stuff with you, especially when there's harder days than not. Being away from family, all that stuff. But at the end, it's all a blessing, man. You just worry about what you can give. Take what you need and give what you can.
Dude, I just love talking to Jason, and I love these stories and hearing his thoughts and having good chat. And then wherever the podcast lands is where it lands, but I'm prioritizing having a killer conversation right now.
Good. I think you told me one time, that don't let perfectionism get in the way of productivity. of just getting it out there. So you're full of wisdom, my friend.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I do want to touch on before we wrap up, you had your undeniable truths. What are those?
I might as well call them anchor points, something that I hold on to. And there's a couple points that I have that when I'm nervous, when I'm anxious, when I hadn't slept in, 22 hours, when I hadn't, seen home, seen family, all that stuff. And the undeniable truths to me, we already touched on was being present in the moment, because I don't believe in anything as wasted time. They talk about stupidity is trying that same thing over and over again with the same results. That's one thing, but still, no such thing as wasted time in whatever you're doing. And you can also find the purpose in every moment. Another undeniable truth that I feel is breath work, is that breathing. From my clinical background, I think breathing is the most basic voluntary function that we have, that is far overlooked within society, within medicine, everything right now. I'm actually going through a book, a guy named James Nestor. It's called Breathe, and it's fantastic. He studies, there's been people hundreds of years looking at exactly the correct ways to breathe. And half the time we're not even thinking about it. So I highly suggest that book. This one right here, called Breathe. Yeah, man. More or less, breathe through your nose too. You get more oxygen to your brain. A little bit of science for you. That's pretty easy
for the pod.
a little pro tip for the pod. No, but either way, the significance also that I find breathing in my life is keeping me alive, but also is just sitting down when I'm overwhelmed. Dude, there's so much noise going on backstage of a show you cannot understand, because there's so much sound. Some people are laughing. Some people are, having deep thoughts, talks. Some people are just listening to loud music, working out. That's all going around you. And like, how do I like escape and be me? And simply just closing my eyes and meditation, focusing simply on breath. It forces you to really think about, hey, how am I feeling? Where am I at right now? And I think that is an undeniable truth that everyone should take a little time to themselves, figure out their breath work, and starting their day with it, really, or ending their day or any stressful time. I feel like is an element of success. It's so simple, and that's why it's so brilliant.
Yeah. That book made a big impact on me for a couple of reasons. One is I was training for an ultra marathon when I was reading that book, and every morning I'd go on a run and listen to the book and started doing the breath work while I run. So in the book, it mentions, I think it's you inhale for 4 seconds, you exhale for 6 to 8 seconds. And you're basically raising the CO2 levels in your blood to the point where your brain is saying, I need to breathe. But then you're increasing that tolerance, and that improves your performance. And it made a huge impact on my physiology while I was working out and training and my recovery and everything else. And it was palpable. Like I could notice a difference because I started training before I did the breath work, and it made a pretty dramatic impact on me. The second reason it made an impact on me is because Jackie has long COVID, and long COVID impacts your lungs and your ability to breathe. It actually makes your breathing irregular. And once I started noticing breath work more and paying closer attention to breathing rates, like we would be in bed and I could feel her breathing irregularly, and I would even make comments and say, hey babe, like try this type of breathing. And so we started going through a program for breath work for her to actually improve her long COVID. And when we took her into treatment at a place called Flow Therapy, It's super killer. If anybody has long COVID, I highly recommend you look into it. It's EECP therapy, with a place called Flow Therapy. And they checked her lungs, and they said she was the only long COVID patient they've ever gotten who had full lung capacity. All of the others only used anywhere from 60 to 80% of their lungs. And that really deep, like when you breathe really deeply and it goes to the bottom of your lungs and fills up, people with long COVID, not a single other patient they had was actually using that remaining 20 to 10% of their lungs, but Jackie was. And the lady who was actually testing her out attributed it to the breath work that we had been doing, which was heavily influenced by that book, as well as a program called Stasis.
Dude, that's amazing. And it's so incredible just because you don't need to buy anything other than your time to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. There's a guy, Wim Hof, we've talked about him plenty. He's a European Belgian, I believe he's a scientist or a PT, like a physical therapist, physiologist, more or less did a study like IRB, everything, like controlled study where they took a virus of some sort, hepatitis A. I'm not sure which one it was. Maybe it was just the flu. Whatever, doesn't matter. Some sort of virus where they injected it in their bloodstream, and he did his series of breath work, and his is holding your breath for minutes on end, even after hyperventilating for however many breaths. And like he would do it for hours and hours. And there was some significant, like real foundational studies that it helps inflammation and your immune system incredibly just by breathe. I believe it was because they were somehow through that, just like you're saying, it's forcing your cells to need oxygen, so it makes them stronger somehow.
Yeah.
It's been so long since school. I don't sound like I'm clinically professionally trained by any means, but still it helped with all of his ailments. And they did a control study of those who didn't, not so good for them, and those who in a large study of those who did the same kind of breath work, I think it was 80% got over it.
Yeah, no, that study's super crazy. And I mean, I'm not a medical professional, but I think it's something like it puts your body under cellular stress, which increases your adrenaline, and it releases your T cells, which are the cells that look for foreign bodies. And it's basically your immune response to identify in your body that need to get nuked. And yeah, he ended up, they said that he was an anomaly, and then he said, no, I can train people to do it. So they gave him 10 students, and he taught them how to breathe. And then through the breath work, they were actually able to achieve similar things, which is, it is totally nuts. Like what you're saying, where, I mean, we all have to breathe anyway. You might as well be thoughtful about how you do it, right?
Dude, I cannot prescribe this book enough for anyone who's just wants to feel better. Yeah. So Breath by James Nestor.
Killer. We'll include it in the show notes. All right, man.
For sure.
Rapid fire questions. How do you define incredible?
Incredible to me is something that makes me think about any element of life, anything at all, in a different way. There's a flower out there. I have no idea what it is, but I do know that it's absolutely beautiful. And I'd never noticed it until I went out there, and it's got like these yellow stamens, and it's like purple and white, and like it's growing, and it's been there in this really hot August heat. And I was like, oh, that's pretty, until I actually just realized and went over to it and looked at it. It's like, dude, this is incredible. This thing is beautiful. Anything incredible is something that makes me look at anything at all in a different manner, in a very respected manner.
I love that, man. It's like incredible is what generates that mind shift, and it actually improves how you think about things. Like it removes that ignorance to be able to say, oh, this is an incredible thing, or I didn't realize that this could be done or achieved. Like that, the actual mind shift that brings about more awareness. That's super cool.
Yeah. Another analogy, we were over playing in, I got the Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion with Willie last Wednesday, and the hospitality there was incredible. That was one word I kept using, strictly because everything was like, they had a farm right next to it. So everything was picked right over there. Whatever you were eating was just like raised right over there. It was, everybody there was incredibly nice, way too nice than they should have been, just for all the chaos going on. Stuff like laundry service, you don't find that, and just, it was incredible. And it made me think about hospitality in a new way. Hospitality to me was serving others to make them comfortable. Hospitality can also be, focusing on serving others to make them comfortable, even if it's not needed, going above and beyond. That was, so it shifted my mind of what I thought hospitality was.
Dude, I love that, because you can also flip that on its head and say, okay, how can I give incredible experiences to other people? What can I do that will make them say, wow, this is next level. This is shifting how I view podcasts, how I view engaging with people who might seem out of reach. Like what can I do to create experiences for people that they haven't had before that shifts their model of how they viewed that experience that I'm giving them? Wow. That's food for thought for tonight. That might keep me up tonight, just thinking that all over, mulling that over. I love that. When you think of somebody who is incredible, who are they, and what is it about them that makes you think they're incredible?
My mom. What's up, Mom? Just throwing it out there. No, I'm just kidding. Still, yes, my mother, because hey, unconditional love that mothers have for their children. Boom, that's bar none one. But when I think also about more incredible people that I've met throughout my life, to me, incredible are those who, once again, go so far beyond that it seems crazy with their actions or how they serve. Incredible story. Stick with me. It's kind of sad, but there was an Amish community. I remember hearing this as a kid. It was on the news. Amish community goes and they're going to school, and someone shoots up this elementary, this Amish community, and they found the killers. And during the due process of courts, everything, the families of those children of whom were killed in these shootings, they went out to the killer's family and they served them. They brought them food. They brought, during like the proceedings of like court, they were there to emotionally help, the killer's family. Because I think it was, some seemingly normal person who had done something like that, just went out and made a really bad decision. And like their families, like they circled around them, considering it was like a horrible, horrible act. They saw so far beyond that it was like, it didn't make sense. Like, why would you do that? Like even going and feeding the actual person who did it in prison, like baking them, food, and just like, wow, that to me was incredible when I heard about it. I wish I knew more facts, but I just, for some reason, I saw it on the news as a kid, and I always think about things like that. But more so to the point of what is incredible is going so far beyond with your actions for others or for a purpose, or for anything like that, that it doesn't really make logical sense.
Yeah, the things that defy logic. And then even tying to what you said previously, that because they defy logic, they restructure how you think about the world.
To me, that is a pretty great definition of incredible. It shifts your focus, your scope of how you look at anything at all.
That's so much to think about in terms of how we apply it to our own lives as well. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been an amazing conversation, as every conversation with you is. How can people find you?
Shameless plug time. Excellent.
Shameless plug time.
Man, I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I guess it's called X now. Find me at fatalbers.com. I'm trying to just always spread that light, that good news. And, look us up on flatlandcavalry.com. You can find our tour. We're pretty much always on the road. And we've got some new songs coming out within the next couple months, and hopefully a new album later on this year. I'll be around. You know where to find me on this podcast.
Well, thank you so much, brother. I will talk to you soon.
Good to see you, Gid.